Hello and welcome back to Dukascopy TV. You're watching part 2 of a special interview with Professor of Economics and Technology at the business school INSEAD, Robert Ayres, about unemployment in Europe and its importance in economic stability and recovery. Today, solutions and ramifications are the key words for this interview. Professor Ayres, once again, thanks for joining me. Now, we established last week governments globally, not just in Europe, can often struggle with creating more jobs. This can also cause quite a strain on resources and is expensive. What do you propose needs to change, and how could it be a potential solution to fight the problem?
Well, I think, in a way, it's skipping ahead, but I think the key to a long-term solution, not just temporary, would be to make a commitment, analogous to the space program once, a commitment to quickly move away from our global, certainly European, dependence on the internal combustion engine for transportation purposes towards alternatives of various kinds. That would include everything electric and probably maybe hydrogen and some other things. But that commitment would greatly reduce the demand for fossil fuels, because 70% of the petroleum coming from, well, the world's petroleum is used just for automobiles. And probably more close to 90% of the petroleum is used for transportation. So that dependence is what we need to attack. Now, if that commitment were made, it would obviously also create a lot of jobs. It would cut costs in the long run, not necessarily immediately. And so it should be worthwhile, and it should be possible to develop investment systems and kinds of investments that would be just exactly what insurance companies and pension funds and so on will need, because they can't commit to pay off people in 20 years what they're expecting based on the low interest rates they're getting right now from government bonds. So there's a kind of triple win possibility out there.
One of the solutions to tackle unemployment has been to introduce what are called apprenticeship schemes, something the UK government has been doing for a number of years now. French President François Hollande hopes to promote the same. Do you think it will help at all?
Well, it probably will help in time. It won't help instantly, but it will help make European manufacturing more. I assume the apprentices would be mainly manufacturing, and that would make European manufacturing less uncompetitive or more competitive than it is right now with respect to Asia. I don't think that by itself this would do much more than a tiny fraction of what needs to be done, because what we really need is a completely new energy system. And that energy system is what drives growth. For 200 years, the main driver of economic growth has been cheaper and cheaper energy. And in recent years, the price of energy has started to go up. It's going up in bumps and lumps. It's not going smoothly, but it is going up. And that is what is keeping the rate of economic growth or recovery very low. It's as simple as that, really. When the price of oil goes up, the rate of growth and recovery goes down. And yet somehow that's not built into the economic theories that are driving the big models, that are driving the long-term policy studies and so on.
We also talked about the wage gap last week and how it can have a detrimental effect on employment and the economy. You mentioned the word equality as well. Are you saying everyone needs to be on the same platform, if you like? How would this help?
There's a very strong argument why wages, especially at the lower end, need to be increased, but they can't be increased by printing money to do it. You have to also find some way to use those people beneficially, and that's where the energy project comes in. I think they're directly related.
Finally, if you could be brief, Mr. Ayres, what would you recommend governments do to better deal with unemployment and uncertain economic growth in, say, Europe, for example?
Okay, well, first of all, I'd say that since most of the jobs, most of the new jobs come from the small and medium enterprises, governments have to spend much more attention to making life easier for them. And one of the ways in which I think that it could be done is through creating some kind of debt insurance scheme, which would be analogous to the federal deposit insurance situation in the United States. The other thing that I think governments really need to consider very seriously is the combination problem that's created by higher energy prices, higher emissions, which are bringing on climate change, and the problem of how long-term investors, as I said, pension funds, insurance companies, and so on, how are they going to pay their obligations in 15, 20 years? And with those three things in mind, the energy price problem, the emissions problem, and the long-term investment problem, the one possible answer is a very serious program directed towards eliminating fossil fuels, or the need for fossil fuels, and eliminating the dependence on the internal combustion engine that has been so dominant for the last 100 years. But I think the time has come for a change.
Okay, thank you for joining me today. You just watched the concluding part of our special program looking at unemployment in Europe. I'll be back tomorrow with a look at a selection of currency pairs in our regular Targets in Focus interview. But to find out which ones and who I'm talking to, tune in tomorrow. Goodbye.